Omotola Okafor stood by the large window of her office on the 23rd floor. She looked down at the city of Lagos below her. The streets were busy with cars and people moving about. From up here, everything looked small and neat. Omotola was 38 years old, and she had built something that many people only dream about. She did not inherit money. She did not get help from her family to start her business. She made her pharmaceutical company all by herself with hard work and smart thinking. Every day for 15 years, Omotola worked hard. She started in a small office with just 2 people working with her. She had very little money at the beginning. She took big risks. Sometimes she won and sometimes she lost money. But she never gave up. She studied what other companies did. She learned about medicine and business. She made good choices about what medicines to sell. Slowly her company grew bigger and bigger. Now, her pharmaceutical company was one of the biggest in West Africa. People knew her name. Business people respected her. She was a woman who had made herself successful. Because of her hard work, Omotola had money. Real money. Not just money in the bank but also beautiful properties that showed what she had done. The first property was an estate in Ikoyi, one of the most expensive areas in Lagos. This estate cost $2,300,000. It was not just a house. It was a big property with many rooms. There was a beautiful garden with flowers and trees. Inside the house, everything was modern and clean. There was a swimming pool where she could swim and relax after long days at work. The property had high walls and security guards because Omotola's things were valuable, and she needed to be safe. She loved walking through the gardens in the evening when the sun was going down. She felt peaceful there. But the estate was not her only property. Last year she had bought another house. This house was special. It was a luxury mansion that looked like something from a magazine. It had 7 big bedrooms, a modern kitchen, and large windows that looked out over the lagoon. The lagoon was beautiful, especially when the sun came up in the morning or went down in the evening. The water looked like gold and orange colors. This mansion cost $1,800,000. It was her dream house. She had wanted a place like this since she was young. When she finally bought it, she felt like she had won a big prize. Omotola also had other properties that her parents left to her. These were old family lands in Enugu, a city where her family came from. These lands were not just valuable because of money. They were important because they connected her to her family history. Her parents had left these properties to her before they died. Her mother passed away when Omotola was 30. Her father died 2 years after that. Omotola missed them very much. These lands made her feel close to them even though they were gone. All of these properties and her successful business made Omotola independent. She did not need anyone to take care of her. She took care of herself. She made her own decisions. She was strong and sure about what she wanted in life. Many rich and successful men had asked her to marry them over the years. Some of them had money too. Some of them had power in government or business. But Omotola said no to all of them. She did not want to marry a man just to have someone. She did not want to marry someone who only wanted her money. She wanted real love. She wanted a man who would respect her and accept that she was successful. She wanted someone who would not feel small because she had money. She wanted someone she could truly trust. For many years, Omotola was alone. She was not sad about this. She had her work. She had her friends. She traveled to other countries. She gave money to help poor people. She was happy with her life. But sometimes, late at night in her big mansion, she thought about what it would be like to share her life with someone. She wondered if real love was possible for a woman like her. Then she went to a charity gala in March. It was an evening party where rich people came together to give money to help sick children. The party was at a big hotel with beautiful lights and music. Omotola wore a black dress that made her look elegant and powerful. She was talking to friends when she saw a man looking at her from across the room. His name was Khalad. He was a construction engineer. He had his own company that built houses and office buildings. He was not as rich as Omotola, but he had done well for himself. He had a nice house and a good car. He dressed nicely and had good manners. Khalad came over and started talking to Omotola. He was charming. His smile was warm and real. He looked her in the eyes when he spoke and he listened carefully when she talked. He did not seem nervous or smaller than her because she had money. When she told him about her pharmaceutical business, he said, "A woman like you deserves a man who can handle her strength. A strong woman needs a strong man beside her, not someone who feels scared of her power." Omotola felt something change inside her when he said this. No man had ever said something like this to her before. It made her feel good. It made her feel like maybe a man could accept her for who she was. After that evening, Khalad called her. They went to dinner. They went to movies. They took walks by the beach. They talked for hours about their lives, their dreams, and their families. Khalad seemed interested in everything about her. He asked questions about her business. He wanted to understand her thoughts. He made her laugh. He was kind to people who worked in restaurants and shops. He visited his mother every week and spoke about her with love. Omotola started to believe that maybe she had found the right person. They dated for 8 months. During this time, Khalad was always romantic and sweet. He bought her flowers. He took her to expensive restaurants. He planned surprises. He made her feel special. He talked about their future together. "Imagine our life," he would say. "We will travel the world. We will build something beautiful together. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life." Omotola believed him. She fell in love with him. When Khalad asked her to marry him, he did it at her company's big party in front of everyone. He got down on one knee and gave her a beautiful diamond ring. Omotola said yes and cried happy tears. Her friends clapped and cheered. She felt like the luckiest woman in the world. She believed her life was finally complete. The wedding was huge and beautiful. 2,000 guests came. They had a traditional Yoruba wedding ceremony in the morning where her family and his family came together. Then they had a big party in the evening with music, food, and dancing that lasted all night. Everyone said it was the most beautiful wedding they had ever seen. Omotola wore a white dress that cost $50,000. She looked like a princess. Khalad wore traditional clothes that made him look like a king. They danced together and people threw money at them because they were so happy. For the first few weeks after the wedding, everything was perfect. Khalad moved into the Ikoyi mansion with Omotola. They slept in the same bed. They ate breakfast together. They talked about their dreams. Omotola felt complete in a way she never had before. She thought her life was now perfect. She had success, she had money, and now she had love too. She believed nothing could ever go wrong. But then small things began to happen. Things so small that Omotola almost did not notice them at first. One evening, Khalad was sitting in the living room looking at the property papers. He said quietly, "You know, it must feel strange for me to live in a house that only has your name on the papers. When people visit, they probably think I am just visiting, not living here with my wife." Omotola laughed and said it did not matter. But Khalad's words stayed in her head. She started to worry that maybe he felt bad about living in her house. Maybe he felt like he was not really her equal as a husband. A few days later, Khalad said something else. They were having dinner with his friends. One of his friends talked about his wife and how they owned their house together with both names on the papers. After dinner, Khalad said to Omotola, "Did you hear what he said? His wife owns half the house with him. It makes people feel respected when their wife puts their name on things. It shows she trusts them." Omotola felt uncomfortable. She had never thought about this before. She wondered if Khalad was really happy. She wondered if he felt like she did not trust him because her name was the only one on the papers. These seeds of worry started to grow in Omotola's mind. She loved Khalad so much. She did not want him to feel bad. She did not want him to think she did not trust him. She did not want him to think she was selfish. But she also felt scared. Something inside her said that she should be careful. But she pushed that feeling away because she wanted to believe in their love. She wanted to believe that Khalad was a good man and that everything would be fine. She did not know that the seeds Khalad was planting were part of a plan. She did not know that his charming words and his sweet actions had all been carefully planned to make her trust him. She did not know what was coming next. She only knew that she loved this man and that she would do almost anything to make him happy and to keep their marriage strong. Omotola Okafor sat at her desk in the office, but she could not focus on the work in front of her. It was 3 months after the wedding, and something had changed in her life. The world seemed different now. She felt different now. The joy and excitement she felt on her wedding day seemed to be slowly disappearing, like water draining from a cup. At home, Khalad had started to spend more time talking about their finances and their properties. It was not the way he spoke about them at the beginning. Back then he would say nice things like, "Your business is so amazing," or, "You are so smart." But now his words had a different feeling. He would bring home magazines and leave them on the table with certain pages marked. On these pages, there were stories about married couples who shared their money and their properties. He would say things like, "Look at this article. This man and his wife put everything in both their names. That is what real partnership looks like." Omotola would read these articles and she started to feel confused. She started to wonder if maybe Khalad was right. Maybe she was being selfish by keeping her properties in only her name. Maybe she did not really trust him. These thoughts made her feel guilty and uncomfortable. Every time she thought about her properties, she felt a small pain in her chest. One evening, Khalad came home and said he needed to talk to her about something important. They sat down in the living room and Khalad looked sad and serious. "I have been thinking about us," he said slowly, "and I have realized something. I do not think you trust me. I think you see me as someone who is not equal to you. I think you are afraid that I want your money." Amadala felt shocked. "That is not true," she said quickly. "I love you. I trust you." But Khalad shook his head. "If you trusted me, you would not keep everything in your name only. Do you know how that makes me feel? It makes me feel like you think I am not good enough to own things with you. It makes me feel small." Khalad's eyes looked sad and hurt. He looked away from her. Amadala felt terrible. She did not want to hurt Khalad. She wanted him to feel that she loved him and trusted him. So she tried to explain, "It is just because those are things I bought before we met. I did not think it mattered." "Of course it matters," Khalad said. "It shows what you think about our marriage. In a real marriage, a husband and wife share everything. They trust each other completely. But you do not seem to want that kind of marriage. You seem to want to keep me outside of your life." He stood up and walked to the window. He stood there looking out and he did not say anything for a long time. Amadala sat alone on the couch, feeling very sad and scared. She was scared that Khalad did not think she loved him. She was scared that he was unhappy. She was scared that maybe her marriage would break. She had just gotten married 3 months ago, and already it felt like something was broken. She wanted to fix it. She wanted to make Khalad happy again. During the next weeks, Khalad began to create small financial problems. He would come home and say things like, "My business partner betrayed me. I lost money in a bad deal." Or, "There was a problem with the construction project and now I owe money to the workers." Each time he would look stressed and worried. Each time Amadala would feel scared that Khalad was suffering. One day Khalad came home and said that his business needed money for a big project. He said if he could get money to invest in this project he could make a lot of money. He said it would change their life. He brought out papers and showed them to Amadala. "Look," he said, pointing to numbers on the papers. "This project will make 20 million naira profit within 1 year. 20 million. Amadala, this is the chance we have been waiting for. This is how we become even more rich." Amadala looked at the papers, but she did not understand all the details. The number seemed very big. But Khalad looked so excited and so hopeful that she felt hopeful too. He explained that he needed to borrow money from the bank to invest in this project. He said the bank would give him the money if they could use her Ikoyi property as security. "It is just for the bank," he said. "It is just a piece of paper. The bank needs to know you support this investment. The property will still be yours. After 1 year, when we make the money, we can pay back the loan and everything will be fine." Amadala hesitated. Something in her mind told her to be careful. But Khalad looked at her with such hope in his eyes. And he said, "Do you not believe in me? Do you not believe that I can make this work? This is how real husbands and wives support each other." So Amadala said yes. She signed the papers that Khalad gave her. She signed papers that put her beautiful Ikoyi property as security for a loan. She did this to support her husband. She did this because she wanted to show that she believed in him. But the money for the big project never came. Weeks went by and Khalad stopped talking about the investment. When Amadala asked him about it, he said that the deal fell through. He said the other partner backed out of the project. He seemed disappointed and sad, but he did not seem surprised. Now, the Ikoyi property was still there, but there was a loan on it. Amadala owned it, but she could not sell it. She could not use it. It was locked up because of the loan. Khalad then started to compare her to other women. He would say things like, "I saw Marcus at the club yesterday. His wife has put all of their properties in both their names. She told me that any woman who truly loves her husband would not hesitate to do that. She said that keeping things separate shows a lack of trust." Or he would say, "My mother was asking me yesterday why your properties are only in your name. She said that in her time, a wife would never do that. She said that makes people talk bad about our marriage." These words hurt Amadala. She did not want people to talk about her marriage. She did not want Khalad's mother to think badly of her. She did not want to be the kind of wife that other women criticized. Amadala had a close friend named Bukola. Bukola was married and had been married for 15 years. She had known Amadala for 20 years. One day Bukola came to visit Amadala at the mansion. They sat by the swimming pool with cold drinks and Bukola said, "My friend, I am worried about you. You seem sad now. Your eyes do not have the light they used to have. What is wrong?" Amadala wanted to tell Bukola everything. But instead she felt angry. She did not know why she felt angry, but she did. She said sharply, "You are always criticizing Khalad. You have never understood him. Not everyone has a marriage like yours. Some of us need to make real sacrifices to keep our marriages strong. Bukola looked hurt. I am not criticizing your husband, she said quietly. I am just worried about you. You have changed since the wedding. You used to be so confident and happy. Now you seem worried all the time. You seem scared. But Omotola did not want to hear this. She did not want to think about these things. So she told Bukola that she did not need her advice. She told Bukola that Bukola did not understand modern marriages. She said things that were not kind. After that day, Bukola stopped coming to visit. Omotola felt sad about this, but she also felt like it was necessary. Khalad had said that Bukola did not support their marriage, so maybe it was better if Bukola was not around. Khalad also did something very clever. He would bring home books about marriage and leave them in places where Omotola would find them. These books all talked about how important it was for wives to trust their husbands and to support them. The book said that a wife should not keep secrets from her husband. The book said that a good wife would give everything to her husband. Omotola read these books and felt more and more confused about what was right and what was wrong. One night, Khalad did something that frightened Omotola very much. They were in bed and he said, I have been thinking about something. I do not think this marriage is working. I do not think you love me the way I need to be loved. I think maybe I should move to the guest bedroom. I think maybe we should think about getting a divorce. Omotola felt like her heart stopped. No, she said, and her voice was shaking. Please no. I love you. I do not want a divorce. But Khalad said coldly, if you love me you have to show me. And the way to show me is to prove that you trust me. Put your properties in both our names. Give me power to control our money. Then I will believe that you really love me and that you really want this marriage to work. Omotola was so scared and so desperate that she could not think clearly. She could only think about how much she wanted to keep her marriage. She could only think about how she did not want to be divorced. So she agreed. She agreed to sign more papers. She agreed to put her mansion in both their names with Khalad having power of attorney. She agreed to let Khalad have control over some of her business accounts. She did these things because she was terrified of losing her marriage. After she signed the papers, Khalad seemed happy again. He was nice to her again. He said sweet things. He made love to her. But Omotola did not feel happy. She felt empty inside. She felt like something was very wrong, but she could not understand what it was. She had just given her husband control of almost everything she owned, and she had done it because she was afraid of losing him. Omotola Okafor woke up one morning and found that Khalad was not in bed with her. She looked around the bedroom but he was not there. She got up and walked through the mansion looking for him. She found him in the guest bedroom. He was packing his clothes into a big suitcase. His face looked angry and cold, like she had never seen it before. What are you doing? Omotola asked, and her voice was very quiet and scared. Khalad did not look at her. He just kept putting clothes into the suitcase. I am leaving, he said. His voice was hard and mean. I cannot stay in this marriage anymore. I cannot stay with a woman who does not love me and does not trust me. Omotola felt like the ground was moving under her feet. She could not breathe properly. No, please, she said. Why are you saying this? What did I do wrong? I signed the papers. I did what you asked. Khalad finally looked at her, and his eyes were cold like ice. You signed some papers, yes. But not everything. You still have properties and accounts that you keep secret from me. You still do not trust me completely. And I cannot live with a wife like that. I deserve a woman who will give everything to me, not a woman who holds things back. Omotola felt tears start to come from her eyes. Tell me what you want, she said desperately. Tell me what I need to do to make you stay. Tell me and I will do it. Khalad smiled, but it was not a nice smile. It was a smile that looked like a snake smiling. He said, everything. I want everything, Omotola. I want the Ikoyi estate in my name only. I want the mansion in my name only. I want control of your pharmaceutical business. I want access to all your bank accounts. Everything. If you give me everything, then I will stay. Then I will believe that you love me. Omotola felt her heart break into pieces. She wanted to say no. She wanted to tell him that what he was asking was wrong. She wanted to tell him that no husband should ask his wife for such things. But she was so terrified. She was so broken inside. The thought of being alone, of being divorced, of people knowing that her marriage failed after just a few months. This thought was too much for her to carry. She thought about what people would say. She thought about her business partners who would lose respect for her. She thought about her family who would feel ashamed. She thought about the wedding just months ago that everyone had seen and talked about. If she got divorced now, everyone would know that she had failed at marriage. Omotola sat down on the bed and she felt like she was falling into a very deep hole. She said, Okay, I will do it. I will give you what you want. Just please do not leave me. Khalad stopped packing his suitcase. He walked over to her and smiled that snake smile again. He said, I knew you would understand. You will see, this is the right thing to do. After you sign everything to me, we will have a perfect marriage. We will be so happy together. The next day, Khalad brought a man to the house. This man was a lawyer but not one that Omotola knew. Khalad said that this lawyer would help them with the papers. The lawyer had a briefcase full of documents. He laid them out on the big dining table. There were so many papers. Omotola looked at them, but the words seemed to swim and move in front of her eyes. She could not think clearly. She could not concentrate. The lawyer explained what each paper meant, but Omotola only heard some of the words. She heard words like transfer, ownership, power of attorney, and sole control. But her mind was not really listening. Her mind was only thinking one thing: if she did not sign these papers, Khalad would leave her. Her marriage would be over. Everyone would know that she had failed. Khalad stood behind her as she sat at the table. She could feel him standing there watching her. He did not say anything, but his presence made her feel more scared. His presence made her feel like she had no choice. One by one, Omotola signed the papers. Her hand shook as she signed her name. Some of the papers transferred the Ikoyi estate to Khalad's name only. Some of the papers transferred the mansion to Khalad's name only. Some of the papers gave Khalad power of attorney over her business accounts and her personal bank accounts. Some of the papers were about other properties and other assets that she owned. Each time she signed, she felt like she was signing away a piece of herself. Each time the pen touched the paper, she felt something dying inside her. But she kept signing because she was so terrified of being alone. When it was finally finished, Omotola put down the pen. Her hand was shaking so much that she could barely hold it. The lawyer put all the papers back into his briefcase. He and Khalad shook hands like they were business partners. Then the lawyer left and it was just Omotola and Khalad in the big mansion. Khalad came around the table and kissed the top of her head. He said, You made the right choice. Now our marriage will be strong. Now I know that you love me. But Omotola did not feel like she had made the right choice. She felt like she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She felt empty and sick inside. She felt like she had just given away everything she had worked for. She had spent 15 years building her pharmaceutical company. She had worked so hard to buy the Ikoyi estate and the beautiful mansion. She had made smart business decisions and taken big risks. And now, in just a few hours, she had signed it all away. That night, Omotola could not sleep. She lay in bed next to Khalad and she listened to him snoring. She felt like she was lying next to a stranger. She felt like she did not know this man at all. She thought about the charming Khalad she had met at the charity gala. She wondered if that man had ever been real or if he had always been a lie. She got out of bed and walked to the window. She looked out at the city of Lagos. The city looked dark and cold in the middle of the night. She felt very alone even though there was a man sleeping in her bed. She felt more alone than she had ever felt before in her life. The next morning, Omotola knew that she had to do something. She knew that she could not keep this secret inside her. She picked up her phone and called her cousin Ade. Ade lived in Abuja, which is another big city in Nigeria. Omotola had not spoken to Ade in several months because she had been so busy with her new marriage. When Ade answered the phone, she sounded happy to hear from Omotola. But as soon as Omotola started to speak, she knew that something was very wrong with Omotola's voice. Omotola was crying. What happened? Ade asked, and her voice was full of worry. Are you okay? Tell me what is wrong. Omotola took a deep breath and she told Ade everything. She told Ade about how Khalad had slowly manipulated her. She told Ade about the fake business deals and the emotional blackmail. She told Ade about how Khalad had threatened to leave her. She told Ade about the papers she had signed just yesterday. She told Ade everything, and as she spoke, she felt like a heavy weight was being lifted from her chest. When Omotola finished speaking, there was silence on the phone for a long time. Then Ade spoke and her voice was very serious. Omotola, what you are describing is not love. This is not a marriage. This is a crime. This is financial abuse. My friend, you are in danger. Omotola felt more tears come. Ade continued, I know a lawyer. His name is Tunde Adewale. He is one of the best lawyers in Nigeria. He helps women who are in situations like yours. He is in Lagos. You need to call him today. Do not wait. Call him today. But what if Khalad finds out? Omotola asked, her voice very small and scared. Then he finds out, Ade said firmly. Omadala, you have already lost so much. You cannot lose yourself. You cannot let this man destroy your life. Call the lawyer today. Promise me you will call him today. Omadala promised, and when she hung up the phone, she felt something change inside her. For the first time since she had signed the papers, she felt a tiny spark of hope. She felt like maybe there was a way out of this terrible situation. She felt like maybe she was not as trapped as she thought. With shaking hands, she looked up the number for Tund Adewale's law office. She took a deep breath and made the call that would change everything. Omadala sat in the waiting room of Tund Adewale's law office on Victoria Island. The office was very nice and very clean. The walls were painted a calm blue color. There were comfortable chairs and a secretary who had been kind to her when she walked in. The secretary had brought her water without even asking if she wanted it. This made Omadala feel a little bit better, but she was still very nervous. She had brought all the papers with her. She had put them in a big folder. Her hands were shaking as she held the folder. She did not know what the lawyer would say when he saw these papers. She did not know if he could help her. She did not know if she had waited too long to ask for help. After a few minutes, a man came out of an office and walked toward her. His name was Tund Adewale. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and a face that looked kind but serious. He wore a nice suit and glasses. He looked like someone who had helped many people before. He looked like someone who would understand what she was going through. "Omadala," he said, and he shook her hand firmly. "Come into my office. Let us talk about what is happening in your life." They walked into his office and Tund closed the door. His office was large and had many books on the walls. There was a big wooden desk with papers and a computer on it. Behind the desk was a window that looked out over Lagos. Tund sat down in his chair and Omadala sat down in a chair across from him. "Before we start," Tund said, "I want you to know that everything you tell me here is private. Nothing you say will leave this office. I am here to help you and I will do everything I can to protect you and your rights. Do you understand?" Omadala nodded. She felt tears coming to her eyes again, but she tried to hold them back. "Now," Tund said gently, "tell me your story. Start from the beginning and tell me everything." For the next 2 hours, Omadala told Tund everything. She told him about meeting Khalad at the charity gala. She told him about the sweet words and the charming behavior. She told him about the slow manipulation and the planted seeds of doubt. She told him about the fake business deals and the emotional blackmail. She told him about Khalad threatening to leave her and about how scared she was of being alone. She told him about signing the papers. As she spoke, Tund listened carefully. He did not interrupt her. He took notes on a piece of paper. Sometimes he looked very serious and sometimes he looked sad. When Omadala finished speaking, Tund took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Omadala," he said, "what you have described is a very common crime in Nigeria. It is called financial abuse. It is abuse that uses money and property and fear as weapons. What happened to you is not your fault. Do you understand? This is not your fault." Omadala started to cry. She had been holding back her tears for so long, but now they came like rain. Tund gave her a box of tissues and waited for her to calm down. When Omadala could speak again, she said, "Can you help me? Can I get my properties back?" Tund nodded slowly. "I believe so," he said. "But first I need to see all the papers you signed. Let me look at them very carefully." Omadala opened her folder and gave all the papers to Tund. He put on his glasses again and started to read through the papers one by one. As he read, his face became darker and darker. He looked more and more angry. Finally, he put down the papers and looked at Omadala. "These documents are full of problems," he said. "Listen to what I am telling you. First, your signature on the property transfer for the mansion does not match your official signature. I can see this very clearly. Your real signature is different from the signature on this paper. This is forgery. This is a crime." Omadala felt shock move through her body. "Forgery?" she said. "What does that mean?" "It means that someone forged your signature," Tund explained. "Someone made a fake signature that looks like yours. Most likely, Khalad did this or had someone do it for him. This is a very serious crime in Nigeria." Tund continued to look through the papers. He said, "Second, even if your signature was real, these papers were signed under duress. You were threatened with divorce. You were emotionally manipulated and blackmailed. In Nigerian law, contracts signed under duress are not valid. They can be cancelled. The court can say that these signatures do not mean anything because you were forced to sign them." "Really?" Omadala asked. There was a little bit of hope in her voice now. "Really?" Tund said. "Third, I see that these documents show business deals that Khalad said he was going to do. Look at this one." He said he was going to invest in a construction project and make millions of naira. But Omotola, I have already checked with the people who run that construction company. There is no such project. It does not exist. Khalad fabricated this document. He made it up to trick you. Tund stood up and walked to his window. He looked out at Lagos for a moment, and then he turned back to Omotola. I need to move very quickly, he said. We do not have time to waste. I believe that Khalad is planning to sell your properties. He has no intention of keeping them. He wants to take the money and disappear. How do you know that? Omotola asked. Tund said, because that is what these men always do. They manipulate women, they get control of their properties, and then they sell them and take the money. That is the plan always. So we need to act now today to stop him. Tund sat down at his desk and picked up his phone. He called a private investigator and told him to find out if there had been any contact between Khalad and real estate brokers. Then he hung up and called another lawyer in his office. He gave instructions very quickly and very clearly. After about 2 hours, the private investigator called back with information. Khalad had contacted 3 real estate brokers in Lagos. He had given them information about the mansion and the Ikoyi estate. He was trying to sell both properties. He was planning to sell them within the next few days. When Tund heard this information, he stood up immediately. We do not have time, he said. We need to file an emergency injunction right now. This will freeze all the properties and stop anyone from selling them or transferring them. It will also stop Khalad from accessing the properties or the bank accounts. Tund worked very fast. He prepared legal documents that asked the court for an emergency injunction. These documents explained what Khalad had done. They explained that Omotola had been manipulated and that her signature had been forged. They explained that Khalad was planning to sell the properties illegally. They asked the court to freeze everything immediately to stop him. By the end of the day, Tund had filed these documents with the High Court of Lagos State. The judge read the documents and agreed that this was an emergency. The judge signed the emergency injunction. Now officially no one could sell the properties. No one could transfer the properties. No one could access the bank accounts. Everything was frozen. That same day, Tund also filed a police report. He gave the police all of Omotola's documents and all of the evidence of forgery and fraud. The police opened a case against Khalad for fraud, forgery, and financial abuse. They issued a warrant to search Khalad's office and his house to look for more evidence. 2 days later, the police came to the mansion with the warrant. They searched through all of Khalad's things. They found more forged documents. They found emails where Khalad had told the real estate brokers to sell the properties quickly. They found bank statements showing that Khalad had already moved some of Omotola's money to accounts in his name. They found phone records showing that Khalad had been planning this scheme for months before he even met Omotola. He had done this same thing to another woman before Omotola. All of this evidence was collected and given to the police. It was also given to Tund so he could use it in court. When Khalad found out about the emergency injunction and the police investigation, he tried to run away. But the police caught him at the airport before he could get on the plane. He was arrested and taken to jail. Omotola heard the news from Tund. She sat in his office and she felt like she could finally breathe again. It was not over yet. The court case had not happened yet. But at least Khalad was in jail. At least her properties were safe now. At least she had a lawyer who believed her and who was fighting for her. Tund smiled at her and said, Omotola, you were very brave to call me. You were very brave to ask for help. Now we will make sure that justice happens. We will make sure that you get back what is yours. The High Court of Lagos State was a large and serious building. It had high ceilings and tall windows. Inside the courtroom, everything was made of dark wood. There was a judge's bench at the front where the judge sat. There were tables where the lawyers sat. There were chairs for the people watching the case. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was full of people. News reporters were there because the case had become famous. Everyone in Lagos was talking about the pharmaceutical businesswoman whose husband had tried to steal her properties. Omotola sat at a table next to Tund. She wore a simple dark blue dress. She looked calm on the outside, but inside her heart was beating very fast. Across the room, Khalad sat at another table with his lawyer. Khalad looked angry and nervous. He did not look at Omotola. The judge came into the courtroom and everyone stood up. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Justice Adebayo. She had a serious face and intelligent eyes. She had been a judge for 30 years and had heard many cases like this before. The case began with Tund presenting Omotola's side of the story. He showed all the evidence to the court. He showed the forged signatures. He showed the emails where Khalad had tried to contact real estate brokers to sell the properties. He showed the bank records that proved Khalad had moved Omadola's money. He showed the police investigation reports that proved Khalad had done this same scheme with another woman 5 years ago. Then Tund called Omadola to the witness stand. The witness stand is where people sit when they have to tell the truth to the court. Omadola walked to the stand and sat down. She put her hand on a Bible and promised to tell the truth. Tund asked her questions about what had happened. Omadola, can you tell the court about the first time Khalad asked you to put your properties in his name? Omadola took a deep breath and told the story. She told about how Khalad had made subtle comments at first. She told about how he compared her to other women. She told about the fake business deals and the emotional blackmail. She told about how he threatened to leave her and how scared she was. As she spoke, some people in the courtroom had tears in their eyes. Some of the women in the courtroom nodded their heads like they understood what she was saying. Omadola, Tund asked, when you signed those papers, did you sign them because you wanted to or because you were forced to? I was forced, Omadola said, and her voice was shaking. He said he would leave me if I did not sign. He said he would get a divorce. I was so scared. I loved him so much and I was terrified of losing my marriage. I would have done anything to keep him. Did you understand what you were signing? Tund asked. Not completely, Omadola said. I was so emotional and so scared that I could not think clearly. I just wanted to make him stay. I just wanted to keep my marriage. Then Tund showed the forged signatures to the court. He showed how Omadola's real signature was very different from the forged signature. He had an expert who studied signatures come to the court and testify that the signature on the mansion transfer document was definitely forged. After Omadola finished testifying, Khalad's lawyer tried to prove that Khalad had not done anything wrong. Khalad's lawyer said that Omadola had signed the papers willingly. But when Khalad took the witness stand, his story did not make sense. He said one thing on one day and something different on another day. He could not explain why the signature on the mansion document did not match Omadola's real signature. He could not explain the emails to the real estate brokers. Then Tund did something very important. He asked the court permission to show that Khalad had done this same thing before. He showed that 5 years ago, Khalad had married a woman named Folake. He had manipulated her and gotten her to sign away her properties. When Folake found out, she went to the police. But Khalad had run away to another country and lived there for 2 years. The case against him was never finished because he was not in Nigeria. But now he was back and he had tried the same thing with Omadola. Folake came to the court and told her story. Her story was almost exactly the same as Omadola's story. She talked about the same manipulation tactics. She talked about the same lies about business deals. She talked about the same threats and emotional blackmail. When Folake finished telling her story, even Khalad's lawyer looked like he did not know what to say. On the final day of the trial, the judge gave her decision. Justice Adebayo spoke for a long time. She talked about the law. She talked about how forging someone's signature is a serious crime. She talked about how contracts signed under duress are not valid. She talked about how Khalad had done this before and had shown that he was a dangerous man who hurt women. Then Justice Adebayo said, I find that Khalad is guilty of fraud, forgery, and financial abuse. I find that all of the documents that were signed are not valid because they were signed under duress and contain forged signatures. I order that all properties be returned to Omadola Okafor in her name only. I order that all of Omadola's money that was moved to Khalad's accounts be returned to her immediately. I order that Khalad pay Omadola 5 million naira in damages. I also recommend that the police prosecute Khalad for his crimes. When the judge finished speaking, Omadola felt like she could not believe what she was hearing. She had won. She had won the case. Her properties were hers again. Her money was hers again. She felt like she could breathe for the first time in many months. Khalad was taken away by the police. He was going to go to trial for the crimes he had committed. He was going to go to jail. Outside the courtroom there were many news reporters. They wanted to talk to Omadola. Cameras were flashing. People were asking her questions. At first, Omadola did not want to talk to them. But then she thought about Folake and about all the other women who had been hurt by men like Khalad. She thought about how many women might not know that what was happening to them was abuse and was a crime. So Omadola spoke to the reporters. She told them about what had happened to her. She told them about the manipulation and the forged documents and the emotional blackmail. She told them that if they were in a situation like this, they should ask for help. She told them to call a lawyer. She told them that they did not have to suffer alone. The story became very big news in Nigeria. Newspapers wrote about it. Television channels talked about it. People all over Lagos and all over Nigeria were talking about Omadola's case. Women started to call lawyers and the police and ask for help with their own situations. Men started to understand that financial abuse was a serious crime. 6 months after the trial, Omadola did something that changed her life again. She created a foundation. She called it the Women's Financial Independence Foundation. The purpose of the foundation was to help women who were in situations like hers. The foundation gave free legal advice to women who could not afford lawyers. It taught women about their rights. It helped women escape situations of financial abuse. Omadola worked with Tund and with Folake and with other lawyers to run the foundation. They created a free hotline where women could call and get help. They created classes where women could learn about money and property and their rights. They created safe places where women could go if they needed to escape from abusive situations. Omadola also went back to work at her pharmaceutical company. She worked hard to build her business even stronger than it had been before. She made sure that the women who worked for her had good jobs and fair pay. She made sure that her company had policies to protect women from harassment and abuse. One day, about a year after the trial ended, Omadola stood in her office again and looked out the window at Lagos. But this time she did not feel alone or scared. She felt strong and purposeful. She had survived something terrible and she had come out of it stronger. She thought about Khalid. He was in prison now, waiting for his criminal trial. She did not hate him anymore. She felt sad that he had chosen to hurt women instead of being a good person. But she did not spend her time thinking about him. She spent her time helping other women. Omadola remembered the words that Tund had told her on the day they first met. He had said, "Omadola, you were very brave to ask for help. Now we will make sure that justice happens." And justice had happened. Not just for her but for many other women too. She thought about how her properties were hers again. The Ikoyi estate with its beautiful gardens was hers. The luxury mansion with the lagoon view was hers. The family lands in Enugu that connected her to her ancestors were hers. All of these things were still hers because she had been brave enough to ask for help. But more important than the properties, Omadola had gotten herself back. She had gotten back her confidence and her strength. She had gotten back her voice. She had gotten back her power. She was no longer the woman who was so scared of losing her marriage that she would sign away everything. She was the woman who had built an empire, and she would never let anyone take that away from her again. And she was also the woman who helped other women. Every time a woman called the hotline and asked for help, Omadola was happy. Every time a woman escaped from an abusive situation because of the foundation's help, Omadola felt like she had won another victory. Her story was no longer just about what happened to her. Her story became a story about justice. Her story became a story about women's power. Her story became a story of hope for women who thought they had lost everything.